Hi, I'm Jen, and this is the Roving Crafters, and this is Sunday, which makes this Sunday stitch. And this Sunday, it's Kitchener stitch, which is a technique that you do on your knitting with a tapestry needle. It's also known as grafting or even live seaming. Now, this can be, it can be a little tricky, mostly because you have to keep track of the rhythm, and the steps themselves are easy and simple. It's just keeping track of where you are in a 4-step repeat. But the reason why it's worth the headache is because when you make this graft, you can take 2 lines of live stitches and you'll create, they need to be set up like this, and I'll explain that in a minute. We're going to create another row which will look like stockinette. It will look like the knit side of stockinette between these 2 stitches, and it forms a seam that's pretty invisible, or normally invisible. I've got these pieces made in dark blue, and I'm going to seam them up in white so that we can deliberately see what's going on. To get started, you have to arrange your stitches on 2 needles evenly. I've got 10 stitches here and 10 stitches here. And then you arrange them so that one side or one piece of your stockinette work you look at on the knit side, on the front side, like this. And the second piece you look at on the reverse stockinette side, on the purl side, on the wrong side, like this. And press them together. From now on, you're going to think of this as your front needle and this as your back needle. There's 2 steps, and they're just set up. And once you've done them, you never do them again. We are going to go into the first stitch on the front needle purlwise with our tapestry needle. So that means as if we were knitting with this thing. Go in as if to purl, purlwise. Pull through. I'm going to leave this, of course, as my little tail. That's step 1 of the setup. Step 2 is to go into the first stitch on the back needle knitwise with the tapestry needle, as if to knit. I'll pull through. Okay. Now we're on a 4-step repeat. These 4 steps are, I'll get to the specifics in a minute, but you work the first 2 stitches on the front needle, and then you work the first 2 stitches on the back needle. That's your 4 steps. When you work the first stitch, it always comes off. When you work the second stitch, it always stays on. First stitch on the back, same thing. It will always come off. The second will always stay on. So, step 1. On the front needle, go in as if to knit, pull through, and take off. Second stitch on the front, go in as if to purl, pull through, and leave it on. Let's move to the back. First stitch on the back, go in as if to purl, and take it off. Second stitch on the back, go in as if to knit, and leave it on. And this is where I tug tight. At the end of my little 4 steps, I give it a gentle tug to pull it tight. I know it doesn't look like much. Let's keep going. Now we start over. First stitch on the front as if to knit, and off. Second stitch on the front as if to purl, and it stays on. Now moving to the back. First stitch on the back as if to purl, get out of there, and off. Second stitch on the back as if to knit, and it stays on, and that's where I tug. And that's it. I'm going to keep going because I think that the Kitchener is more about getting the rhythm. first stitch on the front as if to knit and off. Then second stitch as if to purl and on. First stitch in the back as if to purl and off. Second stitch on the back as if to knit and on. Notice that when we look at this side, we're looking at the knit side. You start the front with a knit, as if to knit on your front needle and off. Next is as if to purl and on. And here we're looking at the purl side. Start with an as if to purl and off. And then as if to knit and on. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more stitches to go. I'm going to finish this up and meet you there. And here I am. I've got 2 stitches left. As if to knit off, as if to purl. They do get fiddly at the end. They get hard to manage because everything just wants to fall off. As if to purl and leave on. And now we've got an as if to purl. Come here, you little guy. As if to purl and off. As if to knit and leave on. That's where I tug. 2 more. And of course, you can't do the 2 steps, so you just do the front stitch. As if to knit and off. And by this point, you're thinking, thank you, off. And as if to purl and off. Set those down right there. Now, this is what we have. You can see where I've created a new row with the white yarn, making a line of knit stitch to graft this one to this one. And here's how it looks in the back. So if you're just finding me through the video, then I want you to know that I have a post to go with this, with a little guide and a little helpful chart, because the only thing that's tough about Kitchener stitching is keeping track of where you are in the sequence. That's the only part of it. Enjoy.